Hello, humans, and welcome to another episode of the Cartridge and Disc Podcast. This is your Gen X Gamer here, and today let's talk about Sony and their 40 million PlayStation 5s that have been sold. This is quite a feat, guys. Let me tell you, since February, with no big titles coming out really other than Final Fantasy 16, and that's not made by Sony, but it's a console exclusive, another 8 million were sold. So they were at 32 million in February. By July 16th, they had already sold another 8 million. Now that is not only great sales, but a lot of it has to do with brand loyalties, not only to Sony, but to the games that they put out on their console, more specifically. Like Nintendo staff said back in the day in the console wars, the name of the game is the game. And Sony, through PlayStation, has delivered quality games now for decades. And that's something that Microsoft, if they wanted to really compete, should have done years and years ago. But now for 2 generations of consoles, they have failed to do that. They missed that point. The name of the game is the game, and they're finally getting it now, but now it's too late. And now it's too late. They're not going to catch up this console generation at all. And as a matter of fact, they're just taking a different approach to their business model. They're just saying, forget that, we're not going to beat Sony when it comes to a dedicated console. And I see them leaving eventually the space. But regardless, let's talk about this incredible feat here and why it has been accomplished by Sony. Of course, it has to do with the games, but this was well established decades ago. Let me tell you, my son and his cousins are all PlayStation guys. Absolutely. They love Nintendo, but Nintendo's always a secondary console, and it's a console for their kids, right? But when they were playing, they started off with a PlayStation. I've owned every PlayStation that's ever come out. It's the standard. You need to have a PlayStation. Ever since PlayStation broke away from Nintendo, they never looked back. When we got the PlayStation and we were able to play those high quality titles at CD quality on that first PlayStation, it blew us away. And many people, that was their first experience. But the generation of parents that you're seeing now, because most gamers are older, most people that are spending these, $600 know that they're spending it either for themselves or for their kids. They know the product. They're loyal to the product. They remember their experiences. I remember specifically the launch of the PlayStation 2 and what that generation held. Let me tell you, that was a great time for game developers. It was a great time to explore games because something happened back then that doesn't happen now. Right now, the PlayStation 5 is reaping the rewards of all that quality that it put out back then. The PlayStation 2 developers were throwing all kinds of things at the wall to see what stuck. Remember the PlayStation 2 library and the variety of games that you get? Not only RPGs, you get games like, crazy games like State of Emergency. You could get Outrun. I mean, all kinds of games. Every genre of games was there. Great JRPGs. You would get the imports from Japan and hear about them, but you would also have them here. It was the first time we would get a lot of the games that in the first generation with the PlayStation, where we only read about them and you had to import it and mod your console and all that stuff. In the PlayStation 2 era, we were getting a lot more of those titles. Companies were taking more chances in the PS2 era, and a lot of the brand loyalty came from there. And even though they had hiccups with the PS3, and there were big ones, let me tell you, that E3 presentation is legendary. Eventually, they came through with great games. Absolutely. And they've always had exclusives that people have wanted and stuck by with. So the brand has quality, the brand has loyalty. So it is no mystery that they're pushing out this many consoles, while at the same time Xbox is seeing a decline in hardware because people are making a choice and they're saying PlayStation is number one. PlayStation is number one. And it's been great to see. It's been great to see from the beginning. I remember buying my first PlayStation. I remember Battle Arena, Toshida, and all the other game samples that I would buy and get in magazines, because I didn't have enough money to buy a lot of games, guys. So I would play, a lot of the disc samplers back in the day. And the PlayStation 1 was already a little bit older when my son was growing up. I started off my son, slow with the Genesis and then the Super Nintendo. And then I remember asking my son this question: what is your console? Like, what is your console? Like, if I asked you what console got you calling yourself a gamer, and right away he said the PlayStation 1. And that's the truth for a lot of his generation that are parents now. And you see it in the sales numbers. You see it in the brand loyalties. You see it in people wanting the games that they've been playing throughout their life, like Final Fantasy or Resident Evil. And those are games that they were playing growing up. And those are games that a lot of the audience that listens to and watches my channel played with. And that resonates, and that sticks with you. And think of this: a lot of kids now that these parents are buying these consoles for, that's their console. Some little kid out there is saying, the reason I turned out to be a gamer is a PlayStation 4. So it has ramifications. And these two brands specifically, Sony and Nintendo, have that kind of loyalty. To me, it is absolutely no mystery that this is happening. It's the result of high quality work when it comes to the console, because whatever you want to say about Sony, they've always put out quality products, as far as their consoles. You didn't have any red light of death in the 7th gen, right, for Sony. And they're just reaping the rewards now. Does that translate into the stock price or anything? Probably not. It's never reflected on Sony's price. When they're doing best, their stock actually goes down. The worst. It's not financial advice, by the way. I just own Sony stock. I own all of them. Right? But usually that's not the way it occurs. They're going to announce earnings here pretty soon. But I believe they should be good. It should be a good report overall, even though they haven't put a lot of games out. And they're putting out the Spider-Man, version of the console. They're taking pre-orders for that now. That should bump up sales even more. So it's looking good. It's looking good. Job well done for Sony. And I hope they keep on putting out the hits. With all this drama that they had with the hearings, with the Xbox and everything else, at the end of the day, they are still the #1 selling home dedicated console. Congratulations to Sony. They put out a great quality product. And that's the reason I'm playing Death Stranding on the PS5 right now. All right, guys. I hope you guys have a good morning. I'll have more for you later. I have a couple of funny shorts out there. Go take a look at them. And I will catch you on the next one. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, guys. It really does help out. And if you really want to support, go ahead and join. I will catch you on the next one. Take care.